I didn't set out to have a winner in this video, but this just ticks all the boxes for me. Hello, in today's foundation roundup, I have 7 foundations to give you my review, my thoughts on. Most are new releases, and you've been asking for my thoughts on a lot of these. I have different types of foundations, different price points, and I'm going to share my experience as well as what skin types I think would benefit the most from each. I also have 2 standout favorites among all of these foundations. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. If you're not subscribed, I do hope that you consider subscribing before the end of this video. All right, let's go ahead and get into these 7 foundations and see what I think about them. You should know my skin type before we get started. I'm normally oily combination. However, I am able to get into the dry skinned area a little bit more because I do have some surface dehydration going on from using prescription tretinoin. My skin is getting used to it. It's uncharted territory for me. It's a little bit different, but I'm able to give you some good perspective on all these foundations as far as skin types go. You should also know that for all of these, I do have to set with powder. You may or may not, and I always test out using no primer and using various primers, but I will link below in the description box the primers that I normally test out these foundations with, as well as the powders and the foundations and everything I'm wearing in the video. You can get to the description box by clicking the title below the video if you're on mobile. If you're on desktop, look below that title and you'll see the words show more and the description box will pop up. This is the most expensive foundation in this video. It is luxury. I want to just go ahead and get it out of the way because I have mentioned it in a video already, but I have tested it further and have some extra thoughts. This is the Gucci Natural Finish Fluid Foundation. There's also a primer, the Silk Priming Serum. So I will touch on the primer, but since this is a foundation roundup where I'm giving you my nuts and bolts, my final thoughts on these foundations, I do want to focus on the foundation. So this is $68 for 1 ounce of product. There are 40 shades. The shade I have is 260W. It is too deep for me. I think it will work in the summer. I have light, medium, warm, neutral skin tone. I'm a MAC NC25. If you think you might be my skin twin, I keep updated foundation and concealer lists over on my blog. So if you're interested in seeing what shades I might be in other foundations, you can always check that out on my blog. The link is in my description box. This has a thick consistency, but it does blend out very easily and quickly. I like to use a sponge with this. I just found that the brush kind of picked up on the dry areas of my skin. I find it gives medium natural coverage. It's somewhat buildable, but I couldn't get it past medium. That's fine for me. I like medium coverage in a foundation. I don't like to mask everything. It feels very lightweight on the skin. I personally like the soft matte appearance. It was a little more matte than what I thought it was going to be, which a lot of people with dry skin might not like. I found that it settled much better on my dry areas, which are mostly around here, on the side that I used this primer. Now I'll go ahead and talk about the primer really quickly. Do I think you need the Gucci primer if you're using the Gucci foundation? It is a light hydrating primer. It did make my skin feel nice and smooth, but I have other primers that do that. So I just didn't feel like this was super necessary. There is a soft light scent to this. I do feel like this lasts better over a primer than without. I kind of felt like it went too matte when I used a mattifying primer. I do prefer it over a moisturizing primer, which is weird for me. So I do think that the Gucci foundation looks nice on my skin if I prep it properly and set it properly. It doesn't break up, my pores look nice, everything looks nice, but it's not blowing me away. If I'm gonna spend almost $70 on a foundation, I need to be blown away. While I think that my skin can look pretty with this, this foundation is a little bit too finicky for me. I just feel like I have to kind of tweak some things to make it work properly, to, you know, not make the flaky areas crop up. Who do I think this is best for? Not dry skin because of the emphasizing of the dryness, and I kind of feel like it's gonna break up in certain areas if you have too oily of skin too. So I would say normal skin. That is a wild guess though. I would love to know if you've tried this foundation, what your thoughts are on it, if it works brilliantly for you what type of skin type you have. And any comments you have on any of the foundations in this video, or if you have foundation review requests for future roundups, let me know those down below. Let's move to a completely different price point and a completely different form of foundation. So this is the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear Foundation in a powder. This is $14.99 for 0.31 ounces of powder, and there are 12 shades. I'm in the shade 130, which is true beige. I just think that there should definitely be more than 12 shades. So you have your clear lid, and then you have your sponge and your mirror under here. This does claim to give you full matte coverage and to be waterproof, sweat proof, and transfer proof. Now, to me, all powder foundations apply very, very easily and quickly, and you have versatility with coverage because if you apply them with a brush, you're going to get less coverage than if you apply them with a sponge. I disagree with the full coverage of this. I think you get medium to medium full coverage at best, which is not a problem for me. I like that kind of coverage. I felt like it gave me a nice natural matte finish that looked really nice on my pores, and it didn't look overly powdery. It also felt really lightweight on the skin. Now, as far as the waterproof, sweatproof, transfer-proof claim, I blew my nose with this on. I wore a mask and I did get some transfer, but I get that with most foundations unless I set them with a setting spray. It's a rare foundation where that doesn't occur. Now, what I will say is that it is also rare for me to have a powder foundation last and wear well all day without me setting it with the setting spray, and this did. Now, I had on very light makeup, so it does kind of look like my makeup was faded, but that's just the kind of day it was. I'm happy to have found a reasonably priced drugstore powder foundation. It seems like they are few and far between. However, I do think this is better for normal to oily skin. On the areas where I had some dryness, I did have to work a little bit more with the sponge at patting those areas down so that the dryness wouldn't be emphasized. I know that powder foundation in general is kind of a crapshoot for dry skin, and because of the matte claim, this one I wouldn't use if you have dry skin. Okay, let's talk about the Huda Beauty FauxFilter Skin Finish Buildable Coverage Foundation Stick. Longest foundation name in the history of foundations. So members of the Stephanie Marie Circle got a sneak peek full review video of this foundation stick already, so they know my preliminary thoughts on it. I do have some additions though, but they got the whole deal behind the scenes. So if you're interested in joining SMC and getting some behind the scenes bonus content or just supporting the channel in a different way, you can click the Join the Circle link in the description box down below, or if you're on desktop, there's a join button and you can see different levels of membership, but I would love to have you join and become a part of the circle. So this is $39 for 0.44 ounces. There are 39 shades, and I am in the shade 240N Toasted Coconut. So I have very few stick foundations that work well for me. They usually break up in certain areas of my face, or they wear away really quickly, or they just don't apply properly to my face. They'll stick to normal dry areas and apply well to my oily areas, or it's just always a struggle. This applies easily and quickly and evenly. It doesn't grip to the dry areas. I do prefer to use a sponge with my stick foundations. I know a lot of people use a brush, but I find I have to push really hard with stick foundations and scrape the skin with a brush. I don't like it. I like to use a sponge. I find that this is pretty buildable from light medium to medium full coverage. This is the foundation that I have on my face today, by the way. If I get a light layer, I find I get a really natural finish. If I build it up a little bit, it still looks natural, but like I'm wearing makeup, if that makes sense. It seems to give kind of a velvety matte finish. It feels lightweight on the skin. I do not feel like this is non-transferable. That's one of the claims, and it does transfer. It transfers if I blow my nose, it transfers on a mask. I set this down with powder and it still transfers. So when I first tried this, even with different primers, I was finding I was getting kind of shiny around hours 4 to 6, which means I would need to blot and use touch-up powder in order to control that, which, you know, that happens when you get an oily T-zone like I do. But I found when I use a mattifying primer in my T-zone and then just a regular primer around the perimeter of my face, it works really, really well for me. So I've been enjoying this more now that I've been doing it like that, instead of trying to use one mattifying primer all over my face, which I don't really like for the dry areas, or using one moisturizing primer, which gets me too shiny. I do need a primer to control the shine, but I do find just using a couple different ones to address certain areas of my face in different ways is necessary for me with this. So this is a stick foundation that I kind of started out being mediocre on, and I have grown to like it a lot more based on the primers I use. I just think it looks really nice and lovely on the skin. I mean, I'm hoping you're thinking that too. I don't know, but I like it. This is a foundation that I kept forgetting to review. I think it got shoved in the back of a drawer. I meant to review it for you guys a long time ago. I've been asked about it, and so I wanted to put it in this roundup. This is the Shiseido Synchro Skin Self-Refreshing Custom Finish Powder Foundation. It is $45 for 0.31 ounces of powder foundation. There are 16 shades, and I am in the shade 240 Quartz. So this has a technology in it that protects your face from oil, sweat, humidity, and facial movement. This again applies easily and quickly, just like any other powder foundation. You can use it wet or dry. I generally don't use powder foundations wet. Now I find this gives light to just under medium coverage, but a little bit more than light to medium coverage. I don't know, it just wasn't quite medium. And this is the one foundation I forgot to get an application video of, but I mean, I feel like you can see on my face just the kind of coverage it gives based on the kind of coverage I've got going on my face today. It's got almost a creamy texture to it. It's not a powdery texture to me. It feels really lightweight on the skin. So I feel like that claim with the facial movements really stands true with this because of that creaminess that it's got to it. I think because of the natural finish, this is a great powder foundation option for anyone with combination to dry skin, and is especially good for mature skin if you're wanting something that is quick to apply like a powder foundation is, but you're also concerned with fine lines and you want that natural looking coverage. If you have oily skin, you may not like the kind of natural glow that can come through, even though it's not a greasy glow. That's going to be kind of a personal preference thing. It didn't really bother me. So if you're someone who likes all of those things and likes a lighter coverage foundation that evens out the skin nicely, then I think you would really enjoy this one. This is the Essence My Skin Perfector Tinted Primer. It says it gives an instant blur effect and it has a natural matte finish. Now the shade that I'm applying in the clip is actually 20 Nude Beige, but the shade that I actually am is 30 Medium Beige. I realized after I have it on, shade 20 is too pale, and so I later matched myself to shade 30. Because this is kind of a skin tint, a tinted primer, each shade will span several skin tones, and that's why there's 6 shades. This is $5.99 for 1.01 ounces of product. This has a very thick, moussey-like texture. I found this takes a little bit of effort to apply it so that it doesn't look streaky. It just took me a while to smooth it out to where my pores and my dry spots were not enhanced. So I actually do like to apply it with a dry sponge versus my fingers. I feel like it goes on quicker and it doesn't emphasize the imperfections that I don't want emphasized. This is a very sheer to light, medium, light coverage. It's meant to be. It's meant to be kind of a skin evening product that you can use on its own, or you can use it under foundation as a primer. And it's supposed to give you velvety matte coverage that smooths the skin and it feels really lightweight. So I didn't really like the way this looked on its own. I mean, I can do a sheer product, but there was something that just took away the glow from my skin. Even on the day when I wore the right shade, it's like it just kind of flattened out my skin tone or something. So I dusted a powder foundation over it and did my makeup, and I liked it like that, and it did work well as a primer. And I don't get shiny with it during the day. It does leave a nice finish to the skin skin and you know, it looks pretty all day. It's just a struggle to apply this to where it looks pretty. I have a tinted primer that I use and love regularly already that applies so quickly and easily that I don't feel the need to mess around with this. I like to apply my primers and my foundations as quickly as possible. I don't want to spend a ton of time doing these steps, and I just feel like I have to mess with this too much. I think that if you have dry skin or if you have large pores, you will not like this product. It's going to be too finicky for you. If you have normal to oily skin, you may want to try it. I don't mind a moussey texture if it's light and airy and applies easily, but yeah, this is not a winner for me. Here's a surprise product that I was not expecting to like, and it's one of my two standout products of the video. This is the Urban Decay Stay Naked Hydromanic Tinted Glow Hydrator. I mean, with oily combination skin, the fact that a tinted glow hydrator is a standout product is a little strange, right? This is another product that can span several skin tones because it is a skin tint type of product. There are 12 shades. I am in the shade 40 Light Medium. This is $29 for 1.1 ounces. This applies very, very quickly and easily using either my fingers or a dry sponge. My option for fingers is a dry sponge because it doesn't thin the product out like a damp sponge does. So I still get decent coverage, but I don't have to use my fingers. This is actually supposed to give you 30% more hydrated skin because it's infused with kombucha filtrate and marula oil. I don't usually want more oil added to my skin with my makeup products because of my T-zone. I just assume it's going to make me more oily. This is actually pretty radiant right after I apply it, and it changes to a soft radiance after I set it, but it's very, very flattering and natural, and it blurs my pores nicely and feels very lightweight. It gives light, buildable to medium coverage, and it wears all day. Usually these types of glowy products, they can give me an issue in my oilier, my shiny areas. This is a product in this video that I feel spans all skin types from oily all the way to dry. I just feel like it's so beautiful on all areas of my skin, the dehydrated flaky areas as well as my oily areas. I just love this and feel like it gives such a healthy glow to the skin, and I don't get greasy during the day with it like I thought I would. So if you like lighter, light medium coverage products that just give you a healthy look, I think you will really like this, and it may even be a product that, like me, you weren't even considering trying, and you may end up being surprised like I am. This is the Fenty Pro Filter Soft Matte Powder Foundation. There are 50 shades, and I am in the shade 230, which is described as light medium with neutral undertones. This is $36 for 0.32 ounces. You have your mirror in the top, and then you have your sponge in the bottom. So this is supposed to give you a soft matte finish, and it's also supposed to be sweat and crease and humidity resistant, kind of like the Shiseido powder foundation from earlier. So again, just like the other powder foundations, it applies very quickly and easily. I want to say in the application, I show you me applying it with a brush and then applying it with a sponge for a little bit more coverage. I can get light to medium full coverage with this powder foundation, so that is where it differs from the Shiseido. This is a very, very smooth powder foundation. It performed well on all areas of my skin, the dry areas, the oily areas. It just performs and looks great. It works great on pores. It doesn't look powdery, it doesn't look cakey, and it does give a nice soft matte finish, and it feels very, very lightweight on the skin. Now, on the days that I have worn this, it has looked great all day long. I don't get shiny. My dryness isn't emphasized. I don't need a setting spray for it to look great all day. And even though it will transfer onto a mask, I don't feel like it looks bad after. Like, I don't feel like my makeup just looks horrid after. Because it works so well on all areas of my skin, I want to say this would work well for all skin types. I am kind of questioning if super dry skin could wear this. I will lean more towards the Shiseido just because of the more natural finish. Because this gives a matte finish, I'm a little hesitant to recommend it for dry skin. So I would say if you have oily to normal skin almost dry, I think this would work really well. Every time I've worn this, I've actually been stunned at how well it's worn, especially for being a powder foundation and not wearing any setting spray. That's just practically a miracle for me. I mean, I didn't set out to have a winner in this video, but this just ticks all the boxes for me. This is a great powder foundation. I am so glad that I tried it. So there's my verdict on it. You guys have been asking me nonstop how I feel about this, and I think it's fantastic. You might be interested in some other foundations that I've reviewed in my other foundation roundups videos. I'll have those videos linked here for you. And let me know other foundations you want to see me review in future foundation roundups videos in the comments. I hope you found this helpful. Thank you so much for watching. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button and become part of the family. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.